So it's been a number of weeks since I was last preaching on a Tuesday. So I don't know where we've got to in our studies. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Was it? No. Be Patient or Become One. That was study 26. So this is 27. I'm into this final chapter. I want to call this message "How to Swear Properly." So you brace yourself for some bad language. No, we won't be doing that. It will be good language. How to swear properly, and you'll get my text in James 5. Now, I tell you, this has not been an easy sermon to prepare for because I've never looked at this. Maybe you all have looked at it and you know all about it, and it's just me that's just passed me by in the 30 years of my Christian life. But goodness me, verse 12, but above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea, your nay, nay, lest ye fall into condemnation. How to swear properly. And I want to initially look at the importance of this subject. 4 eyes for you. 4 eyes, the importance of this subject. And you say to yourself, well, goodness me, it's surely not terribly important. How does it rank along with some of the great doctrines of the Christian church? Well, let's leave it with James. Verse 12, beginning of it, but above all things. Well, that's pretty important, isn't it? This is extraordinary, isn't it? He's ranking what he's about to tell us here above all things that he has been speaking about here for. This is important. This is extraordinarily important. And how do we equate this with the context of so many amazing things that we've seen in this book of James? Here he's finishing this chapter 5, or in the final straight of it, with a flourish, and he's bringing out this business of swearing, or if you want to take another word for it, taking an oath. And he's saying this is primary. This is huge. This is above all things. And one of the reasons I believe he's saying this, and very briefly I'll recount this, is because James has been on this subject of the tongue almost totally and constantly throughout these 5 chapters. Every chapter he refers to the tongue, and especially in chapter 3, but just for a quick recap, probably don't need me to do this, but James 1 and 26, if any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain or futile. It's pointless. If you can't control your tongue, then you may as well pack up your bags and go home. This is the supreme test. This is I believe James, the overall message from James with regards to the tongue is this: that of all your members, this is the member that can lead you astray the most. Amazingly, it's the member that can bless the most as well. But this is lethal. This is, whoa, this we had Paul William, didn't we, on Sunday night, treading on that Spider-Man arm, you know, and the aftermath of what's that doing there? And it's I completely concur with James from my own experience. The tongue is what gets me into most trouble, and almost every occasion I could have avoided the trouble, the unnecessary trouble, if I had just stayed quiet for a bit longer. Because there's something about calming down that changes what the situation looks like that you are responding to. But of course, it's an awful lot easier said than done. An awful lot easier, especially when Spider-Man turns you into the Incredible Hulk. It's a nasty situation. And yes, this is why I think James is stressing this, and he stresses it again and again and again. 2 and 12. Let's have a quick look at that. James 2 and 12. So speak ye, and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. The reference to the mouth, to speech, ultimately to the tongue. Well, chapter 3, I'm not going to read all the verses, 2 through to 11. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same as a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn about the whole body. Do you remember? We were talking about the extraordinary potential for blessing and badness from the tongue. It's either compared to hell fire itself, or to a fountain that is sweet. It seems to be either one extreme or the other. That's chapter 3, chapter 4 and verse 11. Speak not evil one of another, brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother and judgeth his brother speaketh evil of the law, judgeth the law. And if thou judge the law, thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. More warning, more guidance, more help on the subject of the tongue. And of course we get to chapter 5, verse 12. And here it is being mentioned again. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea, your nay be nay, lest you fall into condemnation. So here we have this thread, very, very obvious, luminous thread running throughout James, and James, as it were, is drawing the threads together of the tongue, and is giving us this final, above all, brethren, watch out, be careful, and swear not. And it would appear that I would say not so much the days that we live in, although it certainly is evident, but in the Jewish culture of the day, swearing or taking oaths was a big deal. People concluded business transactions by swearing. Your major decisions were all sealed with an oath. And this seemed to be something that, with regards to the most important things of life, hard on the heels of these decisions being made, was someone, and probably both parties, sealing the deal, as it were, with an oath, with a commitment verbally that was meant to be also a representation of your character. And there unfortunately seemed to be an awful lot of this going on in Jewish times, because people couldn't trust one another. People found it difficult to... I mean, when someone... I think you've ever heard this. I was listening to a brother speak on this subject, and he was recounting. I've not heard this one myself, although I've heard something similar. I swear on a stack of Bibles. You know, people when they want you to believe them, say something. I swear to you, I didn't do it. You know, they bring that in to convince you that they're telling the truth, and perhaps they're doing that because normally you're not great at telling the truth, you know? So they're needing to bring something in to add a bit of substance to their claim, to their protestation. And this what they're telling you must be sincere, because now they're swearing on the subject. And there's an inference here that the more you have to swear and take oaths to demonstrate to people that you're telling the truth, the more it actually tells that you're actually a barefaced liar under normal circumstances. And that's why you're having to go to these extremes to convince people, no, I'm telling the truth, really, trust me. And evidently in Jewish times this was something that Jesus observed. We'll come to that a little bit later. Something that Jesus observed even in the Pharisees, the Sadducees, was this, and James observes it. And it was a very important thing indeed. In order to bring about relationships, bring them together, to conclude business deals, and a number of other things, your commitment to God. It was something that people, it was a very readily done thing. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to make this point probably over and over. Avoid it. Avoid swearing. Avoid taking an oath. When it says swear here, it's not meaning the four-letter words and the. It's more when you swear that you're going to do something, and James warns, don't go there. It's too risky, because what if you're unable to match your mouth with your actions, and then you become very culpable indeed, very blameworthy indeed. And this is something he warns us about. The importance of this is huge. Above all things, my brethren. And let me move on to my second I. And there's an insistence here, as well as the importance, there's an insistence here. But above all things, my brethren, swear not. Now hold on a minute. Perhaps you're thinking, wait a minute, hang on a moment, swear not. Well, there's a lot of swearing goes on in the Bible, David. There's a lot of oaths being taken in the Bible, and it's not something that's exclusive to people. God even takes an oath. Let me give you a few examples of this in the scriptures, and then we'll try and marry this up with what we see in James 5 and verse 12. Listen to this text. I'll give you the reference in just a moment. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God and serve him, and shalt swear by his name. Deuteronomy 6 verse 13. Here's an instruction from God himself. You'll fear the Lord thy God, you'll serve him, and you will swear by his name. Wow. Seems to contradict James 5 and verse 12, doesn't it? Let me give you another reference. So that was a reference regarding, of course, Israel. Let me see if I can find another one for you in this Bible of mine, and I'll give you the reference in just a moment. I think I must have ran out of bookmarks because I haven't bookmarked this one, but hopefully we wrote down the reference correctly. Numbers 30 and verse 2. If a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. And this is why it's so important that when you do vow a vow, when you do take an oath, when you do swear to God, is that you make sure you are able to fulfill what you have said. Now, whether you call what I did, what I'm about to tell you that I did, a vow or an oath or a swear by, I did make a promise to the Lord that if anyone ever asked me to preach, I would preach. I says, Lord, if anyone ever asked me to preach, I will never say no. Now that seemed, I I enjoy preaching. So it wasn't a huge thing at the time for me. But boy, have I been tested with that one. I remember getting a call at 5:30. 5:30. It's locking up the post office on a Wednesday night. Irene Bell. Mr. Bell's not going to make it tonight, David. Will you preach for us? 5:30. And I'm thinking, well, of course I can't. It's 5:30. I've got basically an hour and a half to prepare something. Hour and a bit more to prepare something. I was thinking that in my head. Of course I can't, But then the Lord immediately reminded me, hold on a minute, you promised that if anyone ever asked, you would say yes. And of course, never made that sprint from Green Hills Post Office down to Larch Drive quicker, and got into the room, darling, don't disturb me, and immediately, and fortunately, thankfully, that's the wrong word, fortunately, but I had been musing a little bit on something already, and had an inclination that you just never know, you might get this call, and lo and behold, it came. There was other occasions when people have asked me whilst I've been on holiday, and of course, when you're on holiday, you don't really, I shouldn't say this, should admit to this, but when you preach, there's a lot of preparation goes on, a lot of graft, a lot of studying, looking into things, and then, of course, so you're on holiday and someone asks you to speak, but no, remember, David, you promised. Hang on a minute. See, when I made that promise, Lord, I didn't think, at least on 3 or 4 occasions now, I've thought back and thought, wow, you didn't think this through entirely, David. You thought, I preach, if anyone asks me, no problem. But on 3 or 4 occasions over the years, I have thought, you know what? See, if you knew what was coming, David, you might not have been quite so willing to make that promise. And this is what James is saying. This is, if you do vow a vow, if you do make a promise, you must see it through. And how important this is. Not just the importance of it, but there's an insistence here as well in James 5, swear not. But we're looking at a number of occasions where God actually, God himself swears or takes an oath. Listen to this. You get this in Hebrews 6 and verse 13. For when God made promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself. He actually made a promise to Abraham, and because there's no greater than God, this makes sense, doesn't it? He swore by himself. I swear on my own character, on my own perfections, on my own omnipotence, omniscience, that I will bless Abraham the way I have promised to bless him. God's swearing here. He's encouraging Israel to take oaths, and to, if they do take a vow, to see it through. So there's a lot of evidence here, and I'm just scratching the surface of this. This is something, again, that is a huge principle in the Word of God. I wonder if I can give you another one. Here's one that Paul, the apostle, actually engages himself in. Get this at the beginning of 2 Corinthians. Sorry, I'm giving you all these references, but this is one that is a very good one indeed. 2 Corinthians 1 and verse 23. Moreover, I call God for a record upon my soul, that to spare you I came not as yet unto Corinth. I actually bring God and bear record and ask him to witness this. I am here making a statement and doing this in the presence of the Lord himself. Paul's doing it. God Almighty swore by his own character, his own name. Israel also. There's certainly plenty of evidence here of this phenomena, which we're going to have to somehow reconcile with what James says when he says swear not, quite categorically. And then you can get another reference in relation to God's oath, God swearing to Abraham in Luke 1 and 73. to perform the mercy promised to our fathers and to remember his holy covenant, the oath which God sware to our father Abraham. So here's a lot of evidence, and there's so much more I could bring you, but for time's sake, not able to. But there's lots of evidence here of, in very serious situations, and not taken lightly at all, but there is a place for an oath, for a vow. For instance, when in marriage, you say your marriage vows. We had our children dedicated to the Lord. Jane's dad at the time asked, will you bring up in the fear and the admonition of the Lord your children in the Christian faith? Yes, I do. And there are other occasions I've been in a courtroom where I've laid my hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help me God. And you have these different situations in your life. I know. I don't know how long ago this was. I listened to the ordination of Jane's father. That was taken by a man called Ian Paisley back in the late 60s. It wouldn't have been 65 when Zion started. I think it was a little while afterwards. But anyway, maybe it was 65. But anyway, and in that ordination, he was required to take a vow that he would speak the word of God truly, and he would uphold, amongst other things, the doctrines of grace, which was a real bone of contention because Paisley was known to fraternize with the odd daisy chain. Some daisies you're saved, some daisies you're not. And he liked his Bob Jones, so he did. But no, Pastor Glass took his commitment to these great doctrines very seriously. He'd stood before God. So there are these different instances where, quite obviously and quite correctly, these very serious occasions, and done with a great deal of thought and prayer, there is a place for vowing and taking an oath. So how do we reconcile this with what James says? How do we reconcile this? James says, swear not. But let's read on. And this often happens in the Word of God. Read on. Let's read what the context says. Swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth. Here, James is saying that the only occasion that you should swear is when you swear by God. And you swear by God's name and in God's presence. Anything else, by heaven, by earth. I mean, I've heard people say, I swear on my mum's grave. You ever heard that one? I swear on my children, what's that one? Cross my heart, hope to die. Stick a needle in my eye, and you have all these silly things, don't you, that people say, and then they don't. Their so-called promise is found to be dodgy, found to be false, and the person comes back. You says, crossed my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in your eye. I said, well, I had my fingers crossed behind my back, and people have all sorts of ways of getting out. And you see, this was the cheap way of sad to say, religious people. In Christ's day, I mean, it seems crazy, doesn't it? But this is. Let me give you a reference here. This is amazing. This is amazing. I came across this, Matthew 23. This is Jesus speaking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes. Woe unto you, ye blind guides! You blind guides, which say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. So here they were making up that, if you swear by the temple, that doesn't mean anything. But if you swear by the gold of the temple, you're in big trouble if you break that. What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish. They made these things up to suit themselves. Oh, see when I swore by the temple. That wasn't worth the paper it was written on. I fooled you with that one, because really the only thing you can swear by with regards to the temple is the gold that's in the temple. It's making it up. Making it up. You ever played a game of for the very first time, and the person you're playing knows all the rules, and you think you're winning, and they say, "Oh no, that's not in the rules." No, I didn't know that. The first time I played it, and you're getting caught out right, left, and centre because the other person is a bit more of an expert in it. Well, these Pharisees and Sadducees, these scribes, these blind guides, made out that they knew a lot more. So no. If I swore by the temple, that's not worth anything. Jesus sees us and he says, "Oh, goodness me, you fools and blind. For whether is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifieth the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing. But whosoever sweareth by the gift that is upon you, he is guilty. You fools and blind. For whether is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifieth the gift?" And Jesus goes on extremely sarcastically. Temple, altar, gold, give over. Just forget it. None of that counts for anything at all. You're just using it as a means to extort people, to take a loan of people. And Jesus, it just drew him up. It just caused him tremendous heartache. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You pay tithe of mint and anise, and come in and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. As elsewhere he says, you strain at a gnat and you swallow a camel. And they make this all up as they go along. If you're going to swear, do not swear by anything else other than God. And if you do swear by God, it has to be very serious and very carefully considered. And this is something that it's huge. It's huge, and it all comes back to, of course, the commandment of the Lord: "Thou shalt not take God's name in vain. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain." It's very, very important. And there was this tendency to avoid taking God's name upon their lips, because they did revere it, but they used other things. They swore by heaven. "Oh, by heaven I do this," or by the earth, or all sorts of other different things. And James says, just don't swear about any of these things, or on any of these things. Swear alone upon God and his name, and in so doing be very, very careful indeed. And it's a fact that over the years, I mean, I was amazed at this. In order to avoid the taking of God's name in vain, people have substituted words instead of God's name, and they've done this on a number of occasions. I'm amazed at this. I looked this up in a dictionary before I came out, just to make sure of what I was told. But say, the phrase "cor blimey." So it's a Cockney thing. Cor blimey, that was some goal. Cor blimey is God blind me. It's just a slang taken away from actually saying the word God, because that's swearing and taking God's name in vain, but substituting it with something else that's not the original. I mean, I used to when I was a kid and I said sugar, because it started shh, and it could have been the other word that is more common, or my mum gave me a hard time. That sounded like you were going to say something you shouldn't say, so don't even say it at all. I don't know if you ever had that speech from your mother, another one was crikey. Now I looked this up in the dictionary before I came out. Crikey is slang for Christ. It's actually in your dictionary. It's in my dictionary. But I have looked it up in another dictionary in years gone by. Crikey is just a substituted word for Christ. Now, probably you didn't even know these words were used like this. Another one is gosh. I mean, Jordana's a big one for that word, isn't she? I know other people have used it, and some people just, gosh is just a word, an exclamation, you know. But if you go right back into the dim, distant past, and the origins of it were that it came from a substitute for the word God. And you have people who over the years have taken these words, substituted to avoid taking God's name in vain. But I mean, how your conscience is before God with these things, you know, I don't know. It's very difficult indeed. It's so difficult. You know what James says? Just say oh no and oh yes, and then you'll be clear. You'll know. Trouble is when you hit your thumb with that hammer, you don't feel like saying oh no, do you? Oh no, just split my thumb into several pieces. You know? Oh yes, darling, you need to help me out here. You know that's the last thing you feel. You stand on Spider-Man's arm. You know, you just, you know, it's not the word that immediately leaps to your mind, is it? Oh no. In fact, it sounds a bit wimpy, doesn't it? You know, I don't think Jane would like, you know, oh no, the house has burnt down, you know. Oh, goodness me, darling, oh no, you know. There goes the car, we forgot to put the handbrake on. Oh no, rolling down the hill towards that crowd of pedestrians. Oh no, darling, we better pursue it, you know. But there's a great lesson in this, and this is where James says, if you can reach the point where you're so in control that is the extent of your exclamations. It doesn't sound good, does it? Oh no. Or for goodness sake, you know, or there's a ton of other exclamations that you can. But you one of my nieces says, "All my days," you know. But I wonder what she was going to say when she said that, you know. And there's a whole host of things, you know, that are these substitutes for other things, you know. I mean, there was. The trouble is, you can't say these words because they do sound too much like the bad word, you know. But no, I won't do that. I won't say that. But I'm just trying to use examples, show you examples of. So is it good to use substitutionary words to vent your instant wrath or your annoyance? I don't know. James, I think, is probably right when he says, try not to say anything other than this. Let your yea be yea, and your nay be nay. Jesus has this advice as well. Matthew 5 verse 33 again, you've heard that it hath been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all. This is Matthew 5 verse 33. Swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king, neither shalt thou swear by thy head. I don't know how people would do that. I swear by my head. Because thou canst not make one hair white or black, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. So some great catastrophe happens. No is a good response. But boy, oh boy, do you need to be sanctified if you've just seen something absolutely dreadful. You know, imagine the planes going into the side of the World Trade Center. No. You know, it does seem small by comparison to the actual event, doesn't it? But here Jesus is saying, be careful, and this James is the same, for whatsoever is more than these can come from a heart of evil. Because in that instance where you hear this all the while, people say, oh my God, and they take Christ's name in vain. it's very obvious that that moment, that's coming from a heart of evil. There's no doubt about it. I've known some Christians who do say, oh God, and I believe, I'm being kind here, I hope, and benefit of the doubt that they are literally praying to God, and that's why they're saying that. But I think the majority of people, in fact, the vast majority of people, when they take God's name in vain, when they take Christ's name in vain, they are doing it disrespectfully, dishonoring God, and this is, he insists. I should have gone on to the instruction. That was my third point, which was oh no and oh yes. That was the third point, the instruction. You have the importance, above all, the insistence, do not swear, and balancing that off with other scriptures, and then the instruction, which is rather than swear, rather than take oaths, rather than do these things, or even take God's name in vain, just say oh no or oh yes. And then finally, after importance, insistence, instruction, there is in trouble. The final point, in trouble, because at the end of James 5 and 12, it's a very unusual verse, it says, lest ye fall into condemnation. So we've heard from Jesus' own lips the fact that even you go out with the parameters of no and yes. It may come from a heart of evil, what does come out of your mouth. And well, I certainly am not going to judge you. This is something very much between you and God, because this is a very high standard of sanctification and holiness, and you have real control over your tongue. If in the instance of awfulness, of dreadfulness, of a terrible accident or something else, you can be so in control and just so sanctified as to commit the thing straight away to God and not find yourself saying things that you regret. That's a high standard, isn't it? Very high standard indeed, and it's something very much to aim for. Lest ye fall into condemnation, trouble. And there is, as I mentioned already in Exodus, there is the threat of condemnation. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Exodus 20 and verse 7. There is judgment, there is condemnation, and this is so important, because the tongue, as much as it has the potential to bless and to encourage and to help, it also has this potential for great harm, for great distress, for great badness. So there you have how to swear. I hope it has instructed you, and perhaps you've not ever heard a sermon on that subject before, but hopefully it will lodge in your heart, and something from this will help you draw closer to God. Amen.